Hey Helldivers, welcome back. This is Modin, aka your favorite space cadet and janitor of the SES Fist of Family Values. Today we'll be raiding holy democratic hellfire upon our enemies with the Airburst rocket launcher. You guys ever, stop and wonder if maybe we're the bad guys?
Negative.
They said negative. The support weapon that is equal parts firework display and war crime simulator. The Airburst has a bit of a reputation. Some call it the most dangerous weapon in the game, not because of what it does to the enemy, but because of what it does to your squad. But here's the truth. This launcher isn't meant to delete Bile Titans or Solo Hulks. Its true role is controlling swarms, wiping out patrols, and keeping your squad alive long enough to actually finish the mission. So if you've been blowing yourself up with it, or if your teammates have been filing official complaints with the Ministry of Truth, don't worry. This guide will show you how to use the Airburst effectively. When used at least semi-responsibly, this weapon goes from a liability to one of the most fun and effective support weapons in your arsenal. Now, I could spend the next 10 minutes rattling off overly detailed statistics straight from the wiki, talking about muzzle velocity, drag factors, and every single microscopic number that only a ministry accountant would care about. But I won't, because honestly, none of that matters when you're knee-deep in bugs. Instead, let's cover the essentials and then move on to what really counts, the practical boots-on-the-ground application of democratic firepower. The RL-77 unlocks at level 15 and costs 8,000 requisition slips, and it's a backpack-fed support weapon with a nice, long, stationary reload. You get 6 rockets, and each rocket splits into 25 bomblets that explode over a huge area. That's a ridiculous amount of potential damage. In fact, one shot can technically dish out over 10,000 damage if you somehow manage to funnel all 25 bomblets into one unfortunate target. Spoiler alert, that pretty much never happens. Now, this weapon is not meant to be the recoilless rifle, and it's not supposed to be your go-to heavy killer. Now, I say supposed to because there are a few tricks you can use to make it work against armored targets, and I'll get to those later. But its real purpose is simple and straightforward. Crowd control. It's a tool for mass liberation, deleting entire patrols, and turning swarms of chaff enemies into democratic confetti. Think of it as a grenade launcher that ate one too many democracy rations and decided to unleash his entire magazine all at once. It's absurdly fun, insanely destructive, but it's also one of the fastest ways to get yourself court-martialed if you're not careful.
I need a team reload!
Attention Helldivers, I have just received a quick transmission from Super Earth Command. Apparently not all battles are fought with lasers and orbital strikes. Some are fought with frames per second, which is why I've partnered with Apex Gaming PCs, who is right now running a massive giveaway for a $5,000 Apex Extreme rig until the end of August. It's free to enter, and honestly, it'll run Helldivers 2 smoother than Democracy itself. If you're looking for a new PC, they've also got their Bronze Streamer and Streamer Plus builds, perfect for anyone from casual Helldivers to full-blown propagandists. Check out the link in the description, and maybe you'll be the one walking away with a rig powerful enough to spread liberty at 240 frames a second. The Airburst comes in 2 completely unique firing modes. Other weapons' firing modes usually just change the firing rate, but not for this handcrafted democracy-dealing weapon of perfection. Each firing mode changes how the weapon's munitions function entirely, which really opens up your options on how to deal with enemies. The first mode, and the default when you spawn in, is Flak mode. When the ABRL first released on April 16th, 2024, this was the only firing mode the weapon had to offer. So, at least in my opinion, it offered way less tactical options than it does now. Flak mode is good for 3 things: medium range, long range, and airborne targets such as gunships and shriekers. Flak uses a proximity fuse which detonates 0.2 seconds after detecting either an obstacle or a target within 2 meters, and then the bomblets will detonate sometime before 0.7 seconds after release. Flak mode has a maximum range of 375 meters, which makes it ideal for taking out enemies in a fortress or a bug hive from a safe distance.
A lot of boring math later.
I also routinely use it to take out spore spears and shrieker nests as soon as I can spot them. Then there's cluster mode. This new mode was not added until much later on December 13th, 2024. This mode adds a tremendous amount of tactical flexibility to the Airburst, and quite frankly is a reason on its own to try this weapon if you haven't since it was added. If Flak mode is a sniper, Cluster mode is a shotgun that shoots democratic rockets of liberation. This is personally the mode that I operate in about 75% of the time. Cluster differs heavily from flak for two main reasons. First, the range of the projectile is significantly reduced to only 62.5 meters, and second, the bomblets that it releases detonate on impact. Two massive differences. The cluster excels at close to medium range and allows the user to shower an area with bomblets using a couple techniques that I'll cover later. I will say that one of my favorite things to do is fire the ABRL straight up like a fun, silly game of Airburst roulette. It reminds me of that one scene in the smash hit comedy Grown Ups where they shoot the air up in the air. Maybe I'm aging myself with that reference. Now, whichever mode you choose, just remember, this weapon is not about precision.
It's about sending a message.
This is probably the faction where the ABRL is the most useful, and I almost always bring it. You can also eliminate the heavy enemies such as the Impaler and the Charger by shooting cluster mode projectiles underneath them. The bombs are going to bounce up and instantly detonate under their weak spots, killing them in usually one shot. I will say Impalers will sometimes take 2 shots. Bile Titans are probably the only enemy out of the Terminids that you will be unable to kill with this weapon. Now these guys are just a little bit tougher. You can eliminate troops, devastators, and hulks, as well as gunships if you lead them in flak mode. However, war striders and factory striders are going to be extremely hard to kill. The issue being that they aren't low enough to the ground, so there's no way for the bomblets to bounce back up and hit them. Sometimes you can get lucky against a war strider and kill it, but it's very rare from my experience. While the ABRL is probably one of my favorite weapons in the game, I'll probably ditch it when I'm fighting against this faction. Usually I'll just bring a recoilless rifle instead. This is the other faction that I would bring the ABRL almost every single time. The Illuminate are similar to the Terminids in that they are a horde-based faction. Obviously, they've got some heavy units like the Harvester, but the majority of their enemy count is going to be the Voteless and the Overseers. And that being said, the ABRL absolutely destroys Voteless and Overseers. I have had trouble hitting the Flying Overseers, and like I said before, Harvesters are pretty much immune unless you land a bunch of good shots or get really lucky. The ABRL has pros and cons for each faction, but it definitely still leaves some gaps in that it's not able to kill everything all the time. So next, we're going to go over some complementary things that you can take with you in your loadout. When choosing other weapons and stratagems to bring with you along with the Airburst, it's important to understand the weapon's weaknesses. The two main things that the Airburst struggles with is close range enemies and heavy enemies. I find that it's best to bring a primary that covers those close range gaps that you're going to face. This could be a shotgun like the Punisher, Slugger, or Halt. And I also just really love shotguns. I mean, who doesn't? For stratagems, I would recommend on killing the big guys. I personally love to choose from the Eagle Airstrike, Rail Cannon, Precision Strike, Napalm Barrage, Rocket Sentry, and the seated anti-tank turret. Obviously, use what you like. These are just what I enjoy using, and a lot of what I pick is going to be dependent on the faction that I'm fighting against. When the Airburst is used correctly, you're going to be an invaluable part of the team, the kind of Helldiver that every random lobby prays for. If you use it poorly, you'll be that guy, the menace who wipes his entire team more than the enemy ever could. So, keep your distance, pick the right firing mode, and respect the fact that this thing is about as dangerous to your squad as it is for the enemy.